These videos are for discussion purposes and my opinions only. None of the content should be taken as financial advice, trading advice, or investment advice. You must take full responsibility for any losses you may experience if you decide to participate in any business or investment opportunity. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, I'm going to explain to you how even though Russia is being cut off from SWIFT, it doesn't matter because Putin is smart and he understands the secrets of wealthy people, and he understands the things that wealthy people have used for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years to stay wealthy, even when their bank printed fiat money goes to zero. All right, I'm going to read to you a little bit of this article. It says, if Russia doesn't cease all military operations, you stop Western banks from lending money to agents operating out of the country. If Russia still doesn't stop supplying them with semiconductors, lasers, sensors, and more, if that doesn't deter them, freeze all foreign assets linked to the Russian regime. In fact, sanctions can take many shapes and forms, so as long as they punish Russia. However, most of these options can't be implemented overnight. Instead, it takes time that Ukrainians don't have right now. So remember, this is a very biased propaganda article. It's written under the assumption that Vladimir Putin and Russia's evil people that are just invading to kill and slaughter all the innocent people of Ukraine. Which again, I do not buy into that narrative. So, but this is still educational, and I'm gonna you'll see where I'm going with this. So basically, it says right here, it explains how all these things take time, and it says, well, what's the only other option? It says Western countries will have to go for the jugular with these sanctions. Something along the lines of, let's see what happens if we cut off Russia from SWIFT. So what is SWIFT? Everyone keeps talking about it. SWIFT stands for Society of Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. But unlike its tedious long name, its purpose is quite clear. SWIFT acts as a global messaging system relaying instructions from one bank to another. In other words, moving money internationally from one account to another often involves the participation of multiple intermediaries. And since there are many intermediaries involved, you have to get everybody to agree on how to communicate. SWIFT does it for you. In fact, it doesn't actually move money, but only offers a secure platform to communicate transfer requests between these institutions. It routes payment instructions from one bank to another, allowing them to know how money should move. And if people and institutions within a country need to effect cross-border payments, they'll probably be relying on SWIFT. So it's kind of a big deal, and kicking Russia off SWIFT can have major repercussions overnight. The EU, US, and their allies have agreed to cut off a number of Russian banks from the main international payment system SWIFT. The assets of Russia Central Bank will also be frozen, limiting Russia's ability to access overseas reserves. The intention is to further isolate Russia from the international financial system, a joint statement said. Russia is heavily reliant on the SWIFT system for its key oil and gas exports. The joint sanctions are the harshest measures imposed to date on Russia over the invasion of Ukraine. What is SWIFT and why is it banning Russia so important? SWIFT, or the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications, is a secure messaging system that makes fast cross-border payments possible, enabling international trade. Based in Belgium, it facilitates transactions between more than 11,000 banks and financial institutions across the globe. It plays a pivotal role in supporting the global economy, but has no authority to make sanctions decisions itself. The banks affected were not immediately named, but the German spokesman said that they would include all of those already sanctioned by the international community, as well as other institutions if necessary. Removal from SWIFT is deemed to be a severe curb because almost all banks use the system. The measures were agreed by the United States, United Kingdom, Europe, and Canada. Four of the most deep state Illuminati central banker controlled places on the planet. Go figure. Okay, here's a graph showing the value of the Russian ruble after they got cut off by SWIFT. It basically tanked the value. And then here's basically the same graph inverted because it's doing it in comparison to the United States dollar. So this one's showing the Russian ruble and its purchasing power against the United States dollar. So that's a big hit for Russia to take. But you know what? Putin's been preparing for something like this years and years and years in advance by having precious metals reserves. Read this next article. Bank of Russia resumes gold buying after 2-year pause. The Bank of Russia said it will start purchasing gold again just under 2 years after it ended a long-running buying spree that helped prop up bullion prices the last decade. The central bank will begin buying gold again on the domestic precious metals market, it said in a statement. The move comes after the Monetary Authority and several of the country's commercial banks were sanctioned in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Bank of Russia spent 6 years rapidly accumulating gold, doubling its holdings and becoming the biggest sovereign buyer. It stopped in March 2020 as prices spiked at the onset of the pandemic and has largely kept its stockpile steady since. The Russian purchases provided a key pillar of support for the market at a time when demand from investors was muted. In this next slide, we've got the rise and the fall of the United States dollar starting in 1913, the creation of the Federal Reserve. And if you'll notice, over the past 100 years, every single economic crisis, every single world war, every single financial collapse was manufactured by central banks. They manipulate every market. They finance both sides of every world war. And while the common people are getting impoverished, they are stockpiling up on hard assets, gold, silver, real estate, while the masses are brainwashed and programmed from the education system to get a job and save their money in the bank, where it slowly but surely is guaranteed to lose purchasing power. Here is a graph that shows the amount of money printed just during the year of 2020 over here on the far right. Over 10 trillion just in 2020. In 2021, trillions more. So I think we're going to go into hyperinflation if they don't stop doing this. I mean, this year in 2022, they've tapered down, but who knows for how long? I mean, they might decide to go crazy with the money printing in 2023, and then we go into hyperinflation, and everyone who's not holding hard assets like gold, silver, food, water, guns, bullets, real estate, and everyone saving money in the bank, if we go into hyperinflation, the people saving money in the bank are going to get wiped out. Or if there's some kind of war or they do some kind of cyber attack and the banks all go offline, people can't get their money. I mean, right now in Ukraine, people are doing bank runs and they can't withdraw. We saw in Canada just the other week, because people were voicing their opinions about freedom, that the Canadian government froze all their bank accounts, including millions and millions of dollars that were raised through GoFundMe, a centralized crowdfunding source. This is the United States debt clock. We are over $30 trillion in debt, and it's not stopping. The debt continues to get worse and worse. It's going to continue to spiral downward. There's no way this will ever be paid off, because in 1971, President Nixon terminated the Bretton Woods Agreement, which meant that you could no longer exchange your cash for gold. The United States dollar was no longer backed by gold, and this allowed the central bankers to do something called fractional reserve lending, which goes like this. If you deposited $100 into the bank will take 90% of it and lend it out to other people for interest, creating a debt that can never be repaid. It's just creating debt and trying to create money out of thin air. And this is the result of decades of fractional reserve lending and having our government operate our economy on a debt-based fiat money system that is specifically designed to keep everyone in debt. The government and the central banks want you to stay in debt. They want you to be poor. They want you to be subservient, and they want you to be dependent. That gives them total control. This fiat money fractional reserve banking system, this allows central bankers to create boom and bust cycles in all the different markets, in all the different asset classes all around the world. There is not a single market or asset class that is not being manipulated and going through boom and bust cycles. And this impoverishes people. See, when you have a central bank and big hedge funds creating these boom and bust cycles, it's like a suckers rally, because there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. The winners are the people that buy at the bottom and sell at the top. The losers buy at the top and sell at the bottom. And what they do is they use the mainstream media and they use fear tactics and misinformation to psychologically manipulate human consciousness to buy at the top of the market while the central bankers are selling, making fortunes. And then they also use those same tactics to scare the masses from buying during the bear markets. After being involved in investing and being able to observe different currencies and asset classes for some years now, I have realized that there is nothing stable about anything. In fact, every asset class, every market, every way of life, every industry, every niche, and every genre is manipulated by some institution or multiple institutions. Even in cryptocurrency, there's a thing called a stable coin, which consists of digital currencies pegged to fiat money, USDT, USDC, UST, True USD is another one. These are all supposed to be stable and remain at a 1-to-1 ratio with the United States dollar. But the United States dollar isn't even stable. We just saw that graph I showed you, the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1914, and how the Fed continues to inflate the economy, with even 40% of the circulating supply being printed in the last couple of years, causing record high inflation. So even stable coins in cryptocurrency is just a facade. I mean, if you look at the United States dollar and its history, it's just boom and bust cycles on a continuous downward trend. And then I showed you over the last 48 hours how SWIFT payment systems cut off Russia, causing their currency to tank. I mean, the housing market is manipulated. They did it in 2008, impoverished a bunch of people, stole their homes. Not only is the markets, like the prices of the assets being manipulated, but they even manipulate the language that people speak. For example, in the housing industry or the housing market, there's this thing people get called a mortgage. Everyone's heard of a mortgage. Well, the word mortgage comes from Old French, starting with mort, as in the mortuary, which is where dead people go. And the second half of the word is gage, which means a pledge or a contract. So mortgage means death pledge. And it's not a coincidence that many people die before they can ever pay off their mortgage. And the ones that do pay it off, it usually takes them their entire life. So if you look at the purchasing power of the USD, if you look at the purchasing power of all the different currencies graphed out over time, you'll notice they all go through boom and bust cycles. The entire world is rigged in favor of those that have the power to manipulate markets, mainly being the central banks and the big hedge funds who control the media and the politicians. So it is all a suckers rally. And I'm very tired of it. I just want everyone to be on a level playing field where everyone can prosper without it being at the expense of innocent people who don't understand the market manipulation. Now, I know all this stuff sounds awful. I know it all sounds doom and gloom, and it really is. But you know what? Don't be afraid, because this is just a game. They're playing a game. And if you understand the game, then you can't be played. And I can teach you how to play this game and break out of that rat race. It is possible to learn how to hedge against the inflation. It is possible to learn how to play these markets to your advantage, but they're not going to teach you in school. They're not going to teach you on TV. The government's not going to tell you how to do it. The central banks aren't going to tell you how to do it. They're going to teach you to do the exact opposite. In the public education, they just tell everyone to go to school, get good grades, get a job, and save money in the bank. Well, that is the worst thing you can do. And I'll show you how to set up automated businesses, how to diversify your assets so that in a worst case scenario, a currency goes to zero, the internet goes out, we go into war, you will be prepared. So I'd like to invite you to click the link in the description of this video, get on my email list. Also, friend request me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you click the link in the description where it says my coaching program, that'll give you an invite to join my private coaching program where I teach you social media marketing skills and business building skills so that you can become financially independent using a computer and a smartphone.